canning is not a new thing. People have been canning foods for generations. Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of how to can safely. In front of me I have some chopped tomatoes. Then I have my homemade apple cider vinegar. Hope you can see it. Homemade apple cider vinegar. I have regular store-bought apple cider vinegar. I have my kosher salt. And I have citric acid, some garlic powder, some celery powder, some celery salt. I have some pH strip, my canning jars, my measuring cup. No, you have a measuring spoons. And I have my beans that I'm going to can because I have my canning pot on the stove. It's on low, and I'll bring it up to a boil when I'm ready to put all the stuff here that I'm going to show you guys inside the I'm going to put it inside the pot to can. And then I have some jam here. We're going to talk about all these things. So I have all these things here for a purpose, because I am making a point here, because I want to tell you guys about how to can safely. So today we're going to talk about canning foods that are not very acidic. So I know many people can tomatoes and they don't really do too much with it. They say that tomatoes, it's very acidic, so it's okay, it doesn't matter. But that's really not necessarily true, because some tomatoes are more acidic than others. Like certain kinds of tomatoes, they don't have a lot of acid as another kind of tomatoes. And when you grow your tomatoes, everybody like different types of tomatoes. Like this year I grew 5 variety of tomatoes. I grow Roma, I grow beef tomatoes. I grow another a yellow variety. I grow like a paste tomato. I grow another like a tomato for sandwich. I don't remember the name of it exactly, but I grow a variety of tomatoes. And like 3 or 4 of the tomatoes that I grow, some of the paste tomatoes, they're not very acidic, but the others one are acidic. So if I'm gonna take those paste tomatoes and can them, it's not gonna be really good. It wouldn't have the amount of acidity to preserve very well. So I'll have to add some sort of vinegar or some kind of citric acid in my jars, so that I will have a certain amount of acidity in my jar, so that my tomato preserve is gonna last. Whether it be chopped tomato, whether it be I make sauce, or whether it's whole tomato, I gotta make sure that the acid in the tomatoes is enough so that they can be preserved when I put them in the jars. So that's very, very important. That's point number 1. You gotta know the type of tomato that you grow, and you want to know that the tomato is acidic enough so that it can store very well. Because if there's not enough acid in the tomato, it's gonna go bad when you can it. You know, bad bacteria is gonna build up, and it's gonna definitely go bad. Your sauce or whatever you make with that is definitely gonna go bad. So let's talk about let's continue talking about the tomatoes. So right here I have some tomatoes, and I cut them up already. I am just going to put them inside the jar, and they're just like whoops, I dropped it. I just cut them in this chunk. So not very large, just medium size, because these tomatoes I am going to freeze them for and I'm just going to use them for like if I need to cook something specific and I need chunky tomatoes. This is exactly what I am going to use them for. So all I do is I just put them inside the jar. It's the first jar. Then I'm going to make some smaller ones, because these ones I just tend to keep them in the fridge. Once I thaw them out, I keep them in the fridge, and if I want to make like eggs or something, I just take out some tomatoes. So I like to do smaller ones, like this half pints with tomatoes. And I just basically fold that up, and in the bottom, in here I have the juices that comes out. I am just gonna pour all the juices in there. So that's how I do it. I'm gonna fill that up a little bit more with tomatoes because it's not filled up all the way up. So this is what I do. So yeah. So now that my tomatoes are in my jar, I know that these tomatoes here are not very acidic. I have some paste tomatoes and I have some other tomatoes that have some, you have a good amount of acid, but I know that I mixed the tomatoes. So just to be on the safe side, what I am going to do is I am going to add citric acid to my tomatoes. And I'm using a measuring cup and I'm using half a teaspoon of citric acid in my tomato. So I'm just gonna sprinkle at the top. Just sprinkle at the top. Okay, just for this large jar. And what the citric acid is gonna do, it's gonna keep the tomato color. It's not gonna make the tomato color like go brown. And then for the smaller jars, I'm gonna use excuse me, an eighth of a teaspoon. And this is gonna bring up the acidity of the tomato. But I also like to add some celery powder in mine because celery is a preservative and it helps to prevent botulism. Not that I'm worried about that, but I just like the flavor that it gives. So I just use my, so I just drop a few bits of just shake a little bit in it, and this is all that I do. And then I just simply cover them up and I will put them inside my water bath, and I will water bath them for 40 minutes. Okay, this is what I do. So I am just showing you safely how to do that, because I know some of you just buy tomatoes, or maybe you grow tomatoes and you're newbies, and these videos are for newbies. So I am only showing you guys to use the citric acid in your tomatoes if you are going to can the tomatoes. If you're not going to can the tomatoes and you're going to freeze it, you don't have to put any of these things in. You don't have to put any celery salt or citric acid or celery powder or anything in it. You can just put salt in it if you want, or you don't have to put salt in it if you want. It's up to you based on your recipe, what you're doing, but you don't have to do it if you are not canning it. But if I only do this, like I showed you, if I am canning my tomatoes in a water bath. That's the purpose of it. Okay. So I am just showing you safely how to do that, because I know some of you just buy tomatoes, or maybe you grow tomatoes and you're newbies, and these videos are for newbies, because a lot of you are into canning now and you don't know the variety of tomato, which tomato is have more acid in it, high acid content, which doesn't. So you really don't know, and you're just canning your tomatoes because you watch video or you read a book or something. But it's very important that you should know that, because what you really should know about the kind of tomatoes that you have and the acid content in it. So so this is what I will do for my tomatoes. This is usually what I do, and I usually add salt too in my tomatoes. So that's basically it for that one. But on second hand, if you don't have celery salt, you don't want to put celery salt, you don't have citric acid, you don't have citric acid, you don't want to put that. Here is another thing that I do. So I make my own apple cider vinegar, my own. And I love my own apple cider vinegar. As you can see, it has a mother floating in it. I drink some every morning. It's excellent for your stomach. It's very good for gut health. But I like to make my own with my own apples and stuff like that. But you can also buy regular vinegar. They sell it in the grocery stores. This is $3 for this little bottle. So I don't really like to use store-bought apple cider vinegar because I love mine and mine tastes so much better. So this is where pH strip come in. If you're like a health nut and you don't want to use apple cider vinegar from the store, but you want to make your own vinegar to put in your whatever you're preserving, whether it be sauce or if you're preserving pickles or whatever you're preserving from your garden, whether it be beans, whatever you want to make, cucumber pickles, whatever you want, and you want to use your own vinegar because you know you don't want to buy anything because you have apples, you want to make your own vinegar, you just want to make your own stuff. So you can buy these pH strips. Now you can get, there's a whole bunch of them on Amazon. Now what you want to make sure about is when you're buying this pH strip, you want to make sure that it goes up to 14. So some of them only go up to 3 or 4, some of them go up to 6. You want to make sure that it goes up to 14 so that you can test the pH, because certain things pH need to be 6, 7, 9, 10, 12, whatever. So sometimes you need a high pH, sometimes you need a low pH. But anyways, I'm not going to go into these things. So if you don't want to use a store-bought thing, store-bought apple cider vinegar to make any of your preserves or can or whatever you're doing, canning, sorry, you will have to test your apple cider vinegar to make sure that it is acidic enough before you start to can with your apple cider vinegar. So I did, this is my pH strip that I test from my apple cider vinegar, and this is the one from the store-bought vinegar. And as you can see, they are both the same, and they are both reading. Okay, I'll do it again to show you all. I'm gonna do I'm gonna do 2 strips. I'm just gonna dip it. So just to show you on camera, this is a store-bought vinegar, and I want to make sure that my vinegar is a good acidic content. So how you can do that is testing the store-bought one against your own. All right, so let's test it. So first this is the store-bought one. I'm gonna put my pH strip in there. Okay, and let's test and see the pH of the store-bought vinegar. So this pH is, let me see, it's close to 2. No, it's 4. So the store-bought vinegar is pH of 4. All right. So let's test my vinegar, which is in here, and let's see the pH. Let's see what it's gonna be. So let's test mine and see where it is, what kind of pH it is. And there you go, guys. It's the very same thing. It's pH 4. So and there's the store-bought one. See, it's the very same thing, pH 4. So as you can see, my vinegar and the store-bought vinegar, it has the same pH. So my vinegar is very safe to use. So I am confident that I don't have to use store-bought vinegar. I can use my own vinegar, and it's going to meet the standard for pickling or any kind of preserving that I want to preserve. Very, very safe way to test to see how acidic your vinegar, your homemade vinegar is. So when you're ready to make your stuff, you know it's good. Please do not make apple cider vinegar at home and use it for anything that you're making when it comes to canning, unless you do a test with those pH strips so you have a good idea of the pH of the apple cider vinegar. Because if your apple cider vinegar is not acidic enough, you are going to spoil your beautiful vegetable that you grow in the garden that you was trying to pickle, because it's gonna go bad. You can have botulism, all kind of thing can happen. So please do not do that. This is why I'm making this video, because it's a very, very important, and I want to give you information that's going to be valuable to you and that's going to serve the purpose, because you grow all these beautiful vegetables, you don't want them to go bad. So that's very important. So this is what I do. Now The third thing and the last thing I'm going to talk about is when it comes to vegetables that has low acid is beans. Now, people, there's a lot of ups and downs and this and that when it comes to preserving, canning, and preserving beans, especially canning beans. People say that you shouldn't can beans because it has this and that and blah, 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 and whatever, and it's not acidic enough and it's not safe and it's easy to have to get botulism from beans. Well, obviously, I don't believe all this rubbish, obviously. But I really don't can beans. And the reason why I don't can beans is we eat loads of beans. And honestly, the beans does not last us long enough. And these jars are not big enough to hold the amount of beans that we really eat in one meal. So we need like 3 jars of beans per family. And to us, it's just a waste of jar to do that. So we tend not to can beans. We freeze beans. And as I said in the previous video, I have a very large freezer. So freezing the beans is great. And I use my, let me show you. Food Saver is what I use to can my beans. Not can my beans, to store my beans, to freeze them, because this seals them really well. And here is the plastic. I use a Food Saver. But if I'm not using the Food Saver, I use regular bags, and my favorite bags are the IKEA bags. But when I use those bags, I tend to use the beans up between 2 to 3 months, because they tend to they don't do very well as if you use the Food Saver, because it seals out all moisture, all freezer bond and everything like that. But the regular plastic bag don't do that. So that's the only reason for that. But this year I am actually going to can some beans, and the reason I'm canning these beans is I have left these beans to get really overripe, because we like the chewiness when it goes overripe, and then the peas is inside of it. And I don't know if you guys ever tried this before, but this is, we love it. It's very meaty, and you really don't need any meat to eat these beans when you leave it on the tree and it becomes like that. So the pod itself becomes meaty, and then the seeds itself inside is just soft, and it just creates an amazing like food, like I don't know, we just use as a meat. So that's what I'm gonna can it this year. Okay, y'all, so this is all I have for you today on this segment of canning safely. And continue watching, because I'm going to come back with some more videos about safe canning. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy canning, happy safe canning. Ciao.